Hello, everybody. This is a special edition of AAMI News and Conversation. We're here at AAMI Exchange 2023 in Long Beach, California. And I'm here today with a pretty special guest. We've been talking to a lot of our award winners today, and your award is a pretty special one. So before we dive into that, I'm going to talk about, this is the Laufman-Greatbatch Award. It's a very prestigious award from AAMI. And I'd like you to introduce yourself.
My name is Ajit Yoganathan. I am Emeritus Professor of Biomedical Engineering at Georgia Tech and Emory University. I've been running the Cardiovascular Fluid Mechanics Lab at Georgia Tech since 1979. And even though I'm retired, the lab is still fairly active. And the work we've been doing has been in cardiovascular devices, mainly in artificial heart valves.
Oh, right. Excellent. And so I should mention that this award that you've received here at AAMI today, it's an award that reflects positive influences over a specific field. So in this case, we're really talking about heart valves. So let's dive into that a little bit, because I know that your lab has reviewed, what is it, something like 24 different types of heart valves over the many years. But why is that? Is this a validation process? What's going on here?
So the work that we have done, and as you mentioned, pretty much every single heart valve that has been approved for clinical use in the United States has gone through my lab, either in collaboration with the manufacturer of the valve or in collaboration in research work being done with the Food and Drug Administration. So we've had the privilege of looking at every valve and assessing its function. The importance of this is that heart valves are class 3 devices. They're life-saving devices, and therefore require rigorous studies prior to being used in humans. So a lot of our work is the preclinical engineering studies that are done on these devices.
And is this also going into the almost the design of these studies? So the methodology, is any of your work gone into there?
Yes, the methodology and design of the studies have also come from our lab, and they have influenced what's currently in the international standard ISO 5840, which is the standard for cardiac valves.
I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of your peers, when they were either promoting you to receive this award or talking about your impact, they called this work foundational. Really, building a foundation for those standards for other researchers, other designers to get involved. I'd say that's high praise. I'm curious though, how does one kind of get themselves involved in this? You had said that it was almost spontaneous how you got involved in this field.
I've been involved with standards starting with U.S. National Committee since around about 1984. That was shortly after the first version of 5840 had been published. I had done my PhD work on some aspects of mechanical heart valves and had run into Dr. Stan Nolan, who was a cardiac surgeon at the University of Virginia. And Stan was the chair of the U.S. Committee for Cardiac Valve Standard, as well as the ISO convener for the ISO working group. So he asked me to join, and I've been on that committee since 1984.
You kind of are reflecting the academic influence in standardization, right? When we come to a standards committee, we have clinicians, we have industry, we have, people anywhere ranging from manufacturers to designers. But this is almost specifically academia. And it sometimes surprises me when I see academics get involved in standards, because people talk about ivory towers or silos, etc. How do you step around that? How do you involve your peers?
Well, I think any standard requires the participation of obviously the manufacturers, and we are talking about medical device standards. So clinicians, surgeons, cardiologists, cardiac surgeons in this case, but it also requires researchers who are doing fundamental research. And most of that fundamental research is being done in academia. And you're right, a lot of academics don't see the value of being involved. I felt it was very important that we participate and have participated. And currently in our working group, we have maybe a half a dozen people from academia from around the world.
Kidding.
Yeah.
And this is the working group that is then it's working as a almost an ISO tag, right? So
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
moving
So,
up to the international level.
So it is called WG1
Mhm.
of SC2 TC150, which is the cardiac valve working group. And I was, after Dr. Nolan retired in 2004, 2005, actually, 2005, I was elected to be the convener, and I was convener until the end of 2020. And then I still am active in the working group, but there's a professor from Germany who is now the convener.
Oh, excellent. Now, I also saw that you've done a lot of work advising regulatory groups, even in a non-standards capacity. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes. So as I was finishing up my PhD at Caltech here in California, Pasadena, in 1976, the Congress passed the Medical Device Act. Until then, FDA did not regulate medical devices. It was foods, drugs, and cosmetics.
Right.
But the Device Act was passed 76, and the Center for Devices and Radiological Health was just being established. And I knew some of the engineers there, and they were looking for people to get involved in helping develop test methods and evaluation criteria for devices such as heart valves. I've had a long-standing relationship with FDA and continue to do that. And that provides me with a nice venue because I can talk both industry as well as the regulatory agencies. So that's been in an impartial fashion.
Right.
Yeah.
Essentially, again, I could come back to it. You coming from a almost discovery-based science background, that does seem the ultimate impartiality, of course.
Exactly. And I think that's important that we have because manufacturers obviously may not want to be biased, but you have sort of implied. And then people, when problems arise, everyone looks suspiciously at a manufacturer, even though they may be totally above board.
Right.
And therefore, I find that the role that we play is very important.
No, that's excellent. I did want to ask you also about anything that's upcoming, changes within the field that you're excited about.
So the standard has evolved. The new standard for 5840, which is now in 3 parts, was published in January of 2021. We are now also working on an update to a standard for cardiac repair devices, heart valve repair devices.
Okay.
Which was published initially in 2018, and now we're looking at a revision. The thing is, the technology is evolving very rapidly these days, and therefore we are looking at changes even to the 5840. So it's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I tend to see, standards. Sometimes they see revisions every 5 years. Sometimes longer if you need a lot of collaboration going on. But yeah, you say you're seeing movement.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a call to action to involve more folks in these committees?
There is, yes. And we have good participation from industry. We have academia. One of our challenges is getting the clinicians involved because it is a voluntary time commitment.
Yes.
So it's hard to tell a surgeon to come and sit at a meeting for 3 days. And so we have a few surgeons who are closer to retirement. They've done their thing. They're more interested in advancing standards, so they're involved.
I see. That's good.
Yeah.
No, and is there anything else that you would want to talk about or bring attention to while we're here?
2 things. I think the aspect that AAMI plays in standards is very important. I mean, I know there's a lot more here at the exchange. I mean, you are trying to bring clinical engineers, medical technicians, which are important for keeping hospital equipment. But to me, the standards work is very important. And the people that I know at AAMI are the folks involved with standards. I knew Cliff for almost 25 years before he retired. He was our secretary to the working group.
Oh, great. Yeah. Cliff was also fantastic. If
Yeah.
anybody's curious who he is, we'll put a description of his retirement story.
Exactly. He's playing the harmonica and writing poetry. But no, it's important that the standards work that AAMI does,
Mhm.
especially in this area, at least in the cardiac area, is very important.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today. Congratulations again for winning the Laufman-Greatbatch Award. It's a very big award within AAMI, so it's a
No,
wonderful recognition.
I'm extremely flattered and I feel honored because, yes, I mean, the work we've done has impacted. At the end of the day, it impacts patients. I
Right.
mean, yeah, it's not whether it gets one manufacturer's valve on the market or not. It is what gets to patients. It's safe devices. And that's something that I feel very proud about.
Excellent. Well, thank you again, Dr. Yoganathan.
Yoganathan.
Yoganathan, I do apologize.
Yoganathan.
I appreciate it. Thanks again.
Thank you. Appreciate it.